Hello, class. Good afternoon and welcome to today's lesson. I hope you're doing great. And we're going to continue with the application problems. Remember that most of this week will be employed in solving this type of problems. Application problems, not recent problems and not word problems. So let's see. Today we're going to solve, guys, some of the exercises from pages 154, 155, and 156 from your book from La Universidad. Please open the book on those pages. I repeat, page 154, 155, and 156. So we have 14 problems. We're not going to solve them all. You're going to solve only 7 of them. And I'm going to exemplify 2 for you. So let's see. The ones we're going to perform, please circle them, is exercise 1, exercise 2, exercise 7, exercise 8, 9, 10, and 12. We're going to solve those only. And I'm going to exemplify for you these 2 problems. Problem number 2 and problem number 10. So I have them written over here. And let's start to solve the problems. Remember, there is no recipe, guys, to solve these problems. There is no recipe. If you don't understand something, you have to keep on reading until you get it. If a problem doesn't, just doesn't give up and you cannot solve it, you have to try and try and try. And at some point, if you cannot do it, then you can ask me, okay? Because of course you're not gonna be, in suspense all the time, right? So you can ask me, but only after several tries. Okay, let's solve this problem. Problem number 2, let's read very slowly and very carefully. It says, Ricardo receives 25, let's say dollars, less per week than his younger sister, Martha. Let X represent the amount of money that Martha gets per week. Perfect. Everything so clear by now. So they give me 3 tasks. Task A, write an expression for the amount of money Ricardo gets per week. Okay, here we go. So remember, well, let me, let's write this. We have a variable in this problem. They already told me that I have to represent this variable or to use this variable x, and they actually are telling me what this variable x represents. It represents the amount of money that Martha gets per week. So when I write x, I'm gonna declare that this is the amount of money Martha gets per week. Remember, always declare your variables. Always, always. When you write any variable in any problem, you have to say, this is my variable and this is what it means. Okay, now let's solve the first exercise. Exercise A. Write an expression for the amount of money Ricardo gets per week. Well, if X is the amount that Martha gets per week, and if we know that Ricardo receives $25 less than Martha's money, well, then this expression, okay, the expression that should be the answer for A should be this, X minus 25. This whole expression, all of this, X minus 25, is the amount of money that Ricardo gets per week, because he will get the same money as Martha, which is X, minus $25, according to my first statement. So there you go. Very simple. Exercise B, well, task B. Write an equation. Remember, there's a difference between expression, you don't see any equal sign here, and an equation, which requires an equal sign. So write an equation specifying that Ricardo gets $135 per week. So we know how much money Ricardo gets per week. So basically, if this is, remember, what is this? What is this expression? It's the amount of money Ricardo gets per week. So basically, all I need to do to solve B is establish this equation. All of this expression will be equal to 135. By the way, never include the signs of currency when you're doing the math. Okay, you should never do this. Never. Why not? Well, I mean, it's not too bad, but when you're dealing with the math, the mathematics doesn't know about units or money or any of that. Mathematics only knows numbers. That's why. So basically, this solves the task B. And finally, task C, solve the last equation to find the money to find the amount of money that Martha gets. Okay, so let's solve this equation. It's a very simple linear equation. Remember, this is a linear equation, and if I solve it for the only variable that it has, I should be getting the following: x equals 135 plus 25. Let me write this clearly. There you go. And so x will be equal to 160. Okay, so I have solved the equation. X equals 160. And once I finish with the math, I'm done with the math. Now I come back to the interpretation or the conclusion. And when I write my conclusion, I can go back to interpret these numbers as money or, distance traveled, whatever. Okay, so what is the conclusion? What was X in the beginning? X was the amount of money that Martha gets per week. So I have found that such amount of money is 160. What units? Dollars, because those were the units that we were using. So conclusion, Martha gets, sign of currency, $160 per week. And this concludes my problem neatly. I give my reader a proper conclusion. Okay, and I tell my reader, this is my conclusion. This is all my process and all that stuff. But this is what basically in the end, this is what I want to tell you, that Martha gets $160 per week. Okay, this is always a good idea, guys. Write a proper conclusion to your problem. For example, let me erase this. Once you know about this, let me erase it. If you leave the problem in such way, like if you stop right here, it's not bad. Okay, it's not wrong, it's not bad, it's not incorrect, but it doesn't finish like in the best possible way. If you conclude with a statement in English, in proper language, in proper human language, that's much better for your reader. So always try to do that. Even if it takes you a little more time, always do that. It feels better, okay? It's more satisfactorily. I don't know if that's a word. Okay, never mind. It's just better, okay? Perfect. So this solves the problem number 2. And basically all the problems are like this. All these problems that I'm telling you to solve from these pages are pretty much like this. So you can see that they're not really complex. So let's solve the other problem, the other example. This one's a little harder, just a little. Okay, here we go. Let's read. Always read very slowly and very clearly. We have, when a cab, which is a taxi, when a cab starts its trip, its taximeter checks $6.50. Perfect. Which is like the flat money that you have to pay just for entering the cab. Okay. In Spanish, this is called banderazo, I think. Okay. And then we continue. Once the cab starts its trip, like properly speaking, once the cab starts going, this amount increases at a ratio of $3 per kilometer traveled. That's a lot, right? But let's keep it let's keep it in dollars. Suppose X is the number of kilometers traveled, and then they give us four tasks. Okay, perfect. So let's start. Remember one more time, X. What does X mean in my problem? X means the number. I think this is a better word. Number of kilometers traveled. Okay, perfect. That's what X means. So task A, write an expression for the amount to pay after X kilometers. All right. So task A, the amount I have to pay after traveling for X kilometers is the following. How much do they charge me for each kilometer? $3. So three, the price for each kilometer times the number of kilometers that I'm gonna travel plus the flat um, the flat amount of money that I have to pay just for entering the cab. You know, that's it. That's all the amount of money that I'm gonna pay after traveling for X kilometers. The price of each kilometer times the number of kilometers. So this is all the money I have to pay just for the traveling kilometers. And this is the amount of money I have to pay for just entering the cab. So there you go. B, how much will you pay after 8 kilometers, after traveling 8 kilometers, and how much after 24 kilometers? Okay, so B, section 1. After 8 kilometers, well, I have to use this expression, right? And I have to substitute in my variable the number 8. This is the amount of money that I'm going to pay after traveling 8 kilometers. How much is that going to be? 3 times 8, 24, plus 650. That's going to be 30.50. So we're going to pay 30.50, okay? Let's write in here. We pay $30 with 50 cents after 8 kilometers. And section 2, well, it's pretty much the same, right? But for 24 kilometers. So 3 times 24 plus 650, and that's going to be, you can use a calculator, that's fine, no problem. That's what these things were invented for. So you're gonna pay $78 with 50 cents. So short conclusion, we pay an amount of $78 with 50 cents after traveling for 24 kilometers. Simple. Task C. Write an equation that establishes that you paid $70. Solve this equation to know how many kilometers you traveled. Okay, so let's suppose this, guys. Basically, you take the cab, okay? You take the cab right here, and then you travel, and after you leave the cab, after you get out of the cab, the taxi driver tells you that you owe him $70, okay? So basically, the task C is telling you, suppose that this is the scenario that you're facing, and basically find out how many kilometers you traveled. Perfect. So let's see. Remember, we have to use this expression, and we have to make it equal to 70, because this is the expression that gives you how much money you pay after X kilometers. So if we know that we paid, well, if we know that all that we paid was $70, then this equation allows me to find X, which is the number of kilometers that I traveled in this short trip. So let's see. We subtract 650 from both sides. That's going to be equal to 63.50. And then X equals 63 with 50 cents over 3. And then let's use the calculator. 63.5 over 3, and I'm getting 21.16 kilometers. Well, no, not yet. This is my solution, 21.16. Okay, more or less, it's an approximation. Okay, I get more numbers, but we can cut it right there. So this is my solution to my equation. Now, how can I conclude this little task? Well, conclusion. Um, we well, if we pay $70, that means we travel for 21.16 kilometers approximately. Okay, and this is a proper conclusion, and I'm done. And finally, the task D, which is how much will you travel for $130? Well, it's pretty much the same as C, right? It's pretty much the same idea. It's the same problem, only with a different number. Instead of paying 70 for a trip, you know that you're gonna pay 130, and one more time you have to get me the amount of kilometers that you travel if you paid this much at the end. And that's it. You see, it's the same problem. I don't think there is no need for me to explain it. So as you can see, guys, this is how it works. Pay attention to how neatly, and I'm not trying to show off. I'm not trying to say how great I am. No, I'm trying to tell you that you have to work in this way. You have to work neatly from top to bottom, from left to right, or any other way in which your reader knows perfectly what you're doing. Okay, so don't confuse your reader. When you write, you don't always write just for you. You write for a reader. So I'm gonna stop it right there, and please solve the rest of the exercises, and we can discuss them in a moment. Thanks so much, guys, and I see you in a moment.